Welcome back to AllGen Academy. So today we want to elaborate on one of the first steps in establishing and creating your financial freedom plan. Yep. Okay, and one of the first steps you need is basically define, quantify somehow, well, how much do you need? Okay, and this is a tough one because most people don't think about this number because they're busy in today. Okay, yet you got to think about today in terms of tomorrow, or tomorrow in terms of today. You know, we'll go to that in a second. So if you've done planning with us, you've done the trail map, you'll see here on this slide the section where we start addressing this issue. We ask you the question, if you were to retire today, how much in after-tax dollars would you want/need, okay, to be able to live off of? Right. Okay, the lifestyle that you want. And what this is, basically, it's quantifying your lifestyle. Okay, and again, this is hard because a lot of people, you know, well, if not you, because you've done the foundation stage and you have a budget and you have quantified your lifestyle. But for those of you who haven't, okay, your friends and family, okay, this is the step where we actually start quantifying. So to define a target, because you can't create a plan if you don't know where you want to go. Right. Okay, so you define where you are, where you want to go, which is the quantifying the lifestyle, creating a target so that then we can create a path to be there. What's the saying that if you don't have a target or a goal?
Yeah, those who don't have a target hit it every time.
Hit it every time, right, because you have nowhere to be. Okay, so whether it's right or wrong. So when you start quantifying a lifestyle, that's that question. How much after-tax dollars will you need to live in financial freedom? Now, here's where it gets tricky because they say, oh, well, you know, in 20 years it'll be different. Yes, we know that. So we have the calculations, you know, the tools to be able to project forward. But that's why we started having you think in today's dollars. Okay, right. If you were to quote unquote reach financial freedom today, how much money after tax would you want/need in order to live the lifestyle that you want?
That's right. And just to clarify too, you'll see us use the term retire and financial freedom interchangeably.
Right.
Okay. Even though we've kind of defined the difference, sometimes people, you know, they don't understand financial freedom as much as they understand. Okay, retire. So when you see these questions in today's dollars, you know, I want to live off of X per year after I retire. Or it could be used as during financial freedom.
Right, when I reach financial freedom. Okay. Now, some of the considerations here that we do as financial planners understand that life changes, your focus shifts, your expenses shift. Okay. So, you know, as you get older and reach financial freedom or retirement, you know, your healthcare costs might go up. Okay, your living expenditures might be a bigger percentage of what you make because you're not making as much per se. So here's a typical chart. Now, when I say typical, you know, statistically speaking, the average household spends about $51,000 a year after the age of 65. Now, that varies. That's the average. That includes people who are just going to live off Social Security. That includes people that have major pensions and Social Security. So this is why it's so important that you do a personal financial plan to define what your number is, because it may be twice this much.
Yeah, or 3 times.
Or 3 times, and we've had clients do that, and that's okay. There's no right or wrong. People ask me, well, how much is enough? That depends.
Depends on your lifestyle.
It's really up to you. There's no right or wrong, but you have to define it, quantify it, so then we can start creating a plan and metrics on how to get there.
Well, and sometimes this is a really tough part in terms of kind of as a financial planner and helping people create financial plans, is because a lot of people don't do budgets. Right. And so, and
not you guys.
Yeah, you guys I'm sure are perfect in doing budgets every month. But from the standpoint of trying to understand how much we need to build up over time, it's an extremely important component. So we really want to encourage everyone to make sure they kind of have an understanding of what their expenses are on a monthly basis.
And this is going to vary. You know, we have clients all over the world, you know, so obviously one consideration is, you know, where you live. Right. You know, so that's just one component. Obviously it's more expensive to live in California than it lives to live in Florida.
Right. Okay. Or Alabama.
Or Alabama. I mean, and Jason's going into the particulars of this chart that ranks all the states as far as the cost of living. But you want to take into account a few things, and this is where we kind of backtrack looking at today's lifestyle, but then once we have it today, moving forward, what's a rate of inflation? What are taxes? Okay,
which we'll get into more.
Which we will get into in the tax section, but those vary by state also, because some states don't have taxes, and that's why a lot of people come to Florida because they leave a New York that has a state and a city tax on top of federal, and Florida doesn't. So your dollars could last longer if you have a fixed amount of dollars. That's okay. So that being the case, you know, how do you start thinking about this? And we're going to disclaim a lot in this next slide. So Jason, walk to us through the slides.
So we came up with just to kind of get the wheels turning, we came up with a exercise here, a very simple kind of general way to think about what you need for retirement, okay, or for financial freedom. And what it does is it's a simple formula that kind of takes this concept of, if we can have a certain amount of money that can spit off a certain amount of income per year and that continues to grow for inflation over time, then what is that formula to come up with that number? So it doesn't take into effect a lot of things. It doesn't take into effect Social Security. It doesn't take into effect some other components too, pensions. Sometimes too during financial planning we also sometimes you don't want to have $5 million when you die. You don't need that much.
Right.
So you're trying to use not only your investments, but also kind of getting into principal as you get older, and that's okay to a certain degree. So again, this is not giving you an exact number, but for a really simple formula to kind of get close to start to get somewhat of a target, you could take the amount of income that you want to live on, so annual income needed in financial freedom, all right, and multiply that by 25. Okay, so a simple example of that, a $75,000 a year lifestyle times 25 is 1.875 million. Just to kind of get just to kind of get thinking about how much you need. It's a simple formula to kind of look at that.
Right, and again, as Jason mentioned, there's so many other factors to consider here. I like to look at that as how much am I going to spend in retirement, right? But that doesn't take into account inflation, okay, upon retirement. If I have my money invested, I don't need to necessarily accumulate all that on day one,
right?
Because it's going to grow as I take some money out. So there's a lot of different factors, but here's a good way to start thinking, and we're not trying to discourage anyone, but to see the weight of this number, again, I'm saying, oh my goodness, I'm going to spend that much in retirement?
Yeah.
I really need to get cracking,
right,
and either invest more or get more return on my portfolio, a combination thereof.
Yep.
Does that make sense? So this is a good way to start defining that number. Obviously, when you do a personal financial plan, it defines it even, to more specifically for your situation. So again, the goal of this exercise, of this lesson, is to start thinking about your number, what that looks like, so you can start making a plan, okay, and then to start setting a realistic target. Some people say, I can't afford to, because that number starts to trickles down into what you need to put away every month, every year. And some people say, well, I don't have the bandwidth, I don't have the resource to that. Okay, then maybe we need to adjust a couple of things. There's that crossroad, whether you need to retire later, earn more, so get more risky, invest more, okay? So there's those combinations that financial planning will fine-tune to make a personal financial plan yours.
That's right. And so we'll obviously help you if you need help with this one-on-one, but the important thing, if you're going to do it on your own, is you're better off estimating a little bit high.
Absolutely.
Okay? That way, if you're wrong, you end up with a little bit more money.
That's right.
Yeah. But as Paul said, sometimes when we multiply this number, it becomes a really big number. Sometimes 1.8 million, 2 million just seems like I'll never achieve that. We definitely don't want to put you in a position where it discourages you and you don't do anything. That's not our goal here. It's just, if that number seems overwhelming, what we hope is that the feeling is, all right, well, I guess I got to get started. I got to get going on it now, so I can get even closer to that number, and it kind of gets you motivated.
That's exactly right. And we're going to encourage you to stay tuned and listen to the lesson on inflation, because you're going to see where some of these numbers come from.
Right.
Okay, where the price of goods go up, and if we don't take that into account, we're actually doing you a disservice.
Right.
Okay, so we thank you for listening, and we hope to see you in the next lesson.